Then the Sun Came Up. Written and narrated by Dyson. Chapter 1. War. Matthias Prince Sloan is an unusual man. By age 18, he had crossed the borders of 43 states in his home country, and no matter where he'd land, he managed to make himself a wanted man by the law. Theft has been his most common crime. Cash, car, gun, or life neither mattered much to Matthias. He snatched them all in the blink of an eye and dared the police and even God to punish him. At 22 years old, this American traveler had committed over 200 crimes that stretched from Harlem, New York to Galveston, Texas, and never had he served a fraction of a second behind bars. He never faced a circuit judge or even felt the confines of police handcuffs. Nonetheless, he felt every bit the prisoner. It was quite simple to Matthias. Fear is restraint, guilt is bondage, hatred is solitary confinement, and rage is nothing less than the season and slow deterioration of the soul. Unconditional love is the only freedom truly felt in the world, and peace is its reward. This way of thinking Matthias had inherited from his mother, Bella Sloan, and proudly so. He loved that the two of them thought the same on these things. It made him feel less alone, especially with him bearing no physical resemblance to his mother, and she being the only good person he could recall having any connection to in his early years. Having the same frame of mind as his mother made Matthias feel as if God had not damned him at birth, as his father had claimed. For Bella, the war was to blame. She was convinced that the Vietnam War had deviled Matthias's father since the man that entered her home on the evening of April 7, 1975, claiming to be her husband and the father to her only child, wasn't someone she recognized. It was the way he moved throughout their space, detached from family moments, sinking into a stillness of a shaded room that first caused her suspicions. His behavior was inconsistent with that of the man she married. Because of this, Bella began calling Matthias's father stranger upon occasion, and, in the man's presence, she once sarcastically asked God, where had the government secretly buried her love? Bella was stunned by her husband's response. Edenville, he mumbled out the side of his mouth. Quickly after, his face carried a blank stare while the tranquility within their home quickly buried itself behind his eyes, hands, and feet. It was the first time he hit her. The first time he called her a bitch and a whore. It was the first time that he told her that she wasn't the most beautiful woman in the world and that he didn't love her. Matthias had just turned 5 when he heard his mother refer to his father as a stranger. He thought it was hilarious until he saw the excruciating pain it brought her. It was an agony that lasted 5 years. During that time, a young Matthias watched it delivered to his mother practically whenever the wind blew. It came packaged with a black eye after she was punched in the face. It came with large bruises all over her body from forceful kicks. Upon too many occasions, a young Matthias witnessed his mother being abused until she could hardly tell night from day. One time is too many, and one hit is too much. These were the thoughts that rattled in young Matthias's head seconds before he caught a glimpse of his mother and father on the brink of war. Obviously, neither of the two had prepared themselves for the violent event. It was a Sunday afternoon, and, like Matthias, his mother was still formally dressed from their 3-hour spirit fest conveniently located at the Baptist church around the corner. That church was exactly 2 blocks west from a popular jazz club that his mother had sang her heart out in the night before, along with a few members in the Baptist choir that served as her soulful backup singers. Matthias knew how much his father hated his mother singing in that club. The man hated the attention he gave her from men and women who thought then for sure that she was too good to be married to him. And so when Matthias saw his parents facing off in the kitchen that day, he knew why. Bella had made great efforts to give her son the impression that his father was perfectly fine with her decision to go out and sing the night before. She pretended that it was a coincidence that he had fallen asleep before she had gotten dressed to head out, and, unlike the dozen times before, she didn't carry her heels in her hands and sneak out the back door. She didn't even work to keep it quiet when leaving, not to mention she was dead set on taking Matthias with her, despite the fact that he was too young to be caught in such a place, and, when confronted by his father, he never could keep a secret. And so, she must have known that the soldier would find out, right? Matthias questioned while sitting in the church pew, and then again looking at his mother's eyes stretch when the man of the house walked into the kitchen to greet her with rage. Unfortunately, the woman wasn't wearing metal armor. Instead, she was dressed in her favorite outfit, a canary yellow Christian LaCroix knockoff, dripped in a posh-style lace that stretched about an inch below her knees. The 3-inch heels that topped off her elegant look, along with her taupe stockings that she wore deliberately to look less sexy and more accepting to the spiritual folk, she kicked off at the door. As for the stylish hat she wore to match the dress, well, she had casually tossed it over the kitchen table to beautifully accent the left arm of a chair. Just moments earlier, she looked to be on top of the world. Her jazzy voice sang the gospel. On a good note, she had bounced herself down the neighborhood avenue, past some of Harlem's savvy street vendors, and into their quaint little home. She had sort of glided across the kitchen tiles, set on finding a solution for the broken air conditioner in the middle of summer. Rather than argue with her husband about why he hadn't yet replaced the useless contraption hanging out of their living room window, she settled on simply getting a cool glass of water from the fridge. She got about half a glass of water down when the soldier stumbled into the kitchen and threw an empty liquor bottle at her head. Matthias was thankful that the soldier's aim was off, as was the case of most drunk men. The bottle hit a far wall and shattered glass onto the floor. Matthias waited for his mother to instruct him to get the broom and dustpan, as she had done over 20 times prior. This time, however, she didn't say a word. "Well, aren't you going to clean that up?" the soldier asked his wife. "I'll do it," Matthias eagerly answered, and then his mother held up a hand. She was known to do that in church when she was praising God, and often when she saw her husband coming towards her with an angry or lustful look in his eyes. Yet never before had she held up a hand to her son. Still, our young Matthias knew what it meant, as he did with every case. In church, his mother's hand lifted meant I surrender to the Spirit. When she faced his father, it meant I resist even the thought of you. But a hand held high facing him, and in such a heated moment, Matthias understood his mother was simply messaging the words, "Be still." Matthias struggled to obey his mother and stood in one place when the war began. To the 10-year-old who knew nothing about fighting beyond the walls of his home, his mother looked less like a willing participant to battle and more like a hostage swinging, biting, and clawing her way to freedom. Meanwhile, he watched his father hover over her broken body like an insidious tyrant, seemingly calling a truce after the unsightly bloodshed apparently sobered him up a bit. Rarely, if ever before, had the soldier shown any signs of regret for his cruelty. Yet it happened. In that kitchen, on that Sunday afternoon, he was oddly mourning in the only way that felt right to a man with so much darkness within. He pulled out a small knife out of one of his pants pockets and held it at eye level. He grimaced from the pain and dropped the knife out of reach of the woman who needed it the most. The knife landed near Matthias's left foot. The boy gazed upon it, yearning to pick it up and put it to use in his mother's defense. He rather, though, stayed still, fighting to be obedient to his mother while his father reached out a hand to gently wipe the blood from her nose and lips. With the little strength she had left, a young Matthias witnessed his mother push those hands away, and it was notably the proudest moment in his life. The boy was illuminated with hope, and then his father rushed in to put an end to that.